Hello and welcome to episode 22 of Shared Discovery, the show and podcast dedicated to sharing the many exciting and enjoyable aspects of games and gaming. I'm your host, Victor, and today I'm joined by a new co-host. She's been around the studio, but she's finally in front of the camera. This is Savannah. Say
Hello.
hi. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm Savannah. It's nice to be here.
I'm so happy to finally have you on. We've had many of these conversations off camera, so it's good to have this on camera. But they need to know who you are.
Oh, no.
Right? I do this for all the new co-hosts.
Yeah, and I forgot.
You forgot. Okay,
forgot.
let me lead you through this. Okay, so I always ask them, we're talking about games. So why do you play games? What games do you like? How did you get started? You don't have to answer them all. Just give them an idea of what makes you a gamer.
So I've been playing games since I was really little, probably like 4 or 5. My dad got me into fighting games. I think one of my first games was either Crash Bandicoot or Tekken.
Very different.
I think,
games.
yeah, very, very different games.
Yeah.
My mom really liked Crash Bandicoot. She was super good at it. And I've just been playing games ever since. I really like them. I like RPGs a lot. I like any game where you can customize your character.
I do know that.
Yes.
We had to do the character customization episode.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, I'll just talk forever.
Good. I like having expert guests on here. That's your expertise. Okay, that's good. Crash Bandicoot fighting games. Those what you still like to play today?
Well, today I mostly play a lot of like fantasy RPGs,
Okay.
Divinity, Dark Souls, WoW, things like that.
Wow, spoilers. That's what we're going to be talking about today. That's why I brought you on here, because I needed someone to balance me out today, right?
So I play a lot of games that you don't like.
Yeah, listen.
We play different things.
We have these conversations.
different,
That's what led to this
experiences.
topic, right? We've had this conversation for years. I've known you at this point, right? And I'm like, I don't like Dark Souls. And you're like, I do. And I'm like, you're wrong. And you're like, well, just think about it. These are the reasons. I'm like, okay. I'm a gaming commentator now here, so let me think about it. So this led to this topic. It is character skill progression versus player skill progression, which means we're going to talk about the difference between this, right? So how does your character progress in a game versus how your skills as a player progress as you play the game?
Yeah. How do you get better at the game, at playing the game, rather than the character in the game just like leveling up and getting better like that?
Absolutely. And to do that, we're going to look at various progression systems in games. We're going to give some examples. We're going to talk about Dark Souls. We're going to talk about WoW. We're going to talk about some of our most played favorite games to do this. But first, and I always have a lead-in question, right? So I got a question for you. Hey, don't look. Well, let me ask you.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. How challenged do you want to be while you're playing a game?
Moderately challenged. I'd like to be challenged because otherwise, like, is it a game?
Right.
I don't like. It's interesting because how I play games, you'd think I wouldn't like Dark Souls because it's really hard, and you get to these walls and you get frustrated, and I hate getting frustrated.
I do know that.
So it's really interesting. But the thing with Dark Souls, which I'll get into later, and I think I like about a lot of games, is I like to overcome those obstacles. I like to push past those limits.
Push past your limits.
Yes.
Classic. Anime character. Spoken like a
To
true.
push past those limits and prove to literally just myself that I can do this, that I can be better at this game.
Okay. So you're all about
This game isn't going to beat me. I'm going to beat this game.
You like the difficulty because you like proving something to yourself. Okay. That's awesome. I like that. I don't like that. I don't like them too difficult. I'm on the other side. I like some difficulty. I like to know I'm improving, but I'm really on the side of spreadsheet simulators. I like to see my character improving.
Oh, yeah, you
Numbers
like the
getting
stats.
bigger. The stats, right? If it gets too difficult, I'm like, I quit. I'm out.
If
right?
you're not seeing that constant progression.
Of my character, though.
Yeah.
If it's too much on the player side, if it's too hard,
Yeah.
that's when I'm like, okay.
Where it's
maybe
like you
not.
do all this work and there's not much to show for it.
Yeah, and
I
we're,
get that.
And we're going to get into the nuance of this as we talk about games, right? But this idea of being too difficult has really led to this episode. We've talked about this. Like, why do you like Dark Souls? You don't like difficulty. You don't like challenge. And you're like, but I do. I like overcoming it.
Sometimes.
Yes, sometimes.
It depends.
Okay,
It has
so
to
that
be
leads
the right kind.
to the main topic here. And I found a few articles. I put the YouTube link without referencing it. Good professional podcasting here. So I don't remember what that video is. But I found this article it's a design article about player skill, character skill, and skill progression systems. So this has really helped guide this article quite a bit. This is from gamedeveloper.com. So I think before we even start, we need to define what progression means.
Yes.
The word. We like our words around here.
We like vocabulary.
We like vocabulary. It helps to set the stage for the episode.
Exactly.
So go ahead, read to them, let them know what progression.
So progression is the process of developing or moving gradually towards a more advanced state. You know, you're trying to get better. You're trying to move ahead.
Yes. So keep that in mind for
Gradual.
this whole episode, is when we're talking about the two axes here, the player skill and the character skill, they're either your character's gradually getting to a more advanced state, or you as a player, your skill, how fast
You're
your
becoming
timing.
a more advanced player.
So think about that. Progression means improvement.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so let's start with player skill. So player skill, we're going to define it like this. It's the skill the player has at the game they're playing. Wow, whoa, you just said the same word. Okay, let's dive that a little bit, right? So accuracy of your shooting, right? Timing your dodge rolls. This is going to look like evading
Pattern recognition.
Yeah, that's a good one. Evading projectiles is part of that. Platforming.
Yeah.
Or memorization, that goes into it as well. Right? So this is the things that as you're playing certain mechanics in the game will emphasize things that you literally have to do better.
Yes.
So this brings us to a concept that I like. It's called how deep is a game? You hear this a lot. And I was like, well, how much depth is there to that game?
How much depth is there to the game? Is it shallow? Is it surface level? Or does it go beyond that? Like, what does it tell you?
So what does deep mean?
So games that offer a lot of room in their mechanics for players to develop their skills. Lots of combos versus fewer combos.
Right? And so when we're talking about deep, we're looking at these games that allow for a lot of room for you as a player to improve.
Yes.
And so, again, there's going to be, we always talk about Magic, Gathering here, but there's a combo being
a combination of things that makes a different thing.
Yeah, a combination of two pieces, mechanics, cards in this instance, that you put together and you get a bigger outcome than just the two cards separately, right? And Magic has over 30,000 cards at this point.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
So it's a game that allows for a lot of player skill.
A lot of very different combos.
A lot of different combos because it allows players to figure those out.
And it's not always just one thing and one thing. It could be a string of things that runs on like an engine.
Absolutely. And the most simple version is the 1-in-1.
Yeah.
Right? I play this card. 1 + 1 = 4 cards. Right? You're getting more than what you got. Or I play this card. I win the game.
Yeah.
That's not.
Two-card combo.
You're not going to find that in every game. Magic's kind of unique in that instance, right? But games are deep when it allows players to find those combos. Or think about fighting games.
Oh, yeah. You know, learning the different combos by going to the character's like skill page. I don't know what you would call that, but
there's
their
like
moves.
Yeah, there's
their
like menus, move sets,
tools, outlet. I don't know, where it shows you like all the different buttons to press in which order, what kind of sequence to do these big combos. And I never paid attention to those. I button mash.
You button mash.
Yeah, if I button mash in fighting games. Or I tried to do it one time with Soul Calibur, and I didn't understand what they were doing, what they were saying, because it was for PlayStation 2, and they were like, A and Y, and I'm like, what?
What does this mean?
So I didn't understand.
You didn't understand. So it allowed for you to play the game, but it was wide open and very deep for you to improve as a player.
If I was able to.
If you were able to, if you understood the concepts better, and there absolutely are people that understand that.
Yes.
Think about Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Oh, yeah.
It's over 20 years old at this point. It came out on the GameCube. People are still finding new mechanics.
Smash Bros is crazy.
Isn't that crazy, right? So people are still finding new mechanics, still bringing characters that were considered bad to the forefront. I think a case of this I watched was Jigglypuff. In that game, people just assumed it was bad.
Yeah.
But now there's one character who decided to learn absolutely everything about that character in the game
And how
is
to
winning.
how to push them past their limits.
Push them past their limits like an anime protagonist.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to be the very best at this one specific thing just to show you, just to prove you wrong.
So fighting games are notoriously notorious is bad, are famously deep. So
They look like they're surface level because it's like you just press buttons to beat each other up. But the combo screens is very, very in depth.
yes,
And you need to be a very skilled person to figure those out.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's by accident or by literally looking through their combo menu and memorizing all of that.
and studying other players, getting into the nuance there. This goes back to how we define player skill, right? Thinking about Smash Bros in particular, like timing your evades, timing your shields, your jumps. And it's crazy.
Any dashes.
It's so crazy watching top end players. So we argue here that depth is completely on the axis of player skill. That there's some conversation to be had there, and we will, but depth is highly leaning towards player skill. Okay, so character skill. Take it away. Tell them about character skill.
The skill or power of the player-controlled character through narrative and or gameplay mechanics. An example is leveling up, the most simple way for a character to progress.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
It's unaffected by what the player does. Mostly, like, you do the fighting to get them XP to level up, but them leveling up, what they get when they level up, is usually not determined by you.
Exactly.
By your skill. It's the game.
Exactly. So their stats and strength increase. They do more damage the next level, right? I'm doing 5 instead of 4 damage because I got another point of strength. It's not because I timed anything better.
It's not because I'm hitting them better.
It's not because I'm aiming at their weak spot or timing a dodge roll or parry, anything like that. It's just the character within their in-game universe has more strength now.
Yes.
And so that's a very classic one across RPGs, right? Is that they level up, they do more damage per attack.
They get more skills to do the things.
Thinking about like
They get more health.
Yeah, health, right? Like they can take more hits, not because you're dodging better.
Yeah, just because the
Because
literal
they have
health
more
bar
health.
is more.
The number's higher.
Yeah.
Or think about like gearing up. This is an example of this. Like you give your character a better weapon, they do more damage.
You give your character better armor, they take less damage.
Take less damage.
But that's not you getting better.
That is your character improving within the game. Okay, so these are the two axes this episode's going to go back and forth between. But let's talk about what a progression system is. We talked about progressing, but what is a progression system? So in this article that I mentioned at the top of the hour, the progression system is what controls the degree of importance of a player's skill versus a character's skill. Right? So this is how the game uses its mechanics to allow you or your character improve, right?
Yes.
So
Like the leveling system.
leveling systems is a very good example of that, right? Or skill systems, which gets us into this, like a skill progression systems are becoming very common in games, right? So the skill progression system specifically is a design concept that has existed in video games for years now, but it allows players to slowly get more mechanics throughout the course of the game.
So think about WoW, think about like Grim Dawn. When you level up, you're able to get these new skills that will change your play style. But you're not getting those skills because you're better at the game. It's just because of leveling.
Yes, but the game is
Put in this system for you.
but you're gonna start. Yeah, the game put that in there for you. The developers put that system in there for you. But this skill progression system says I'm gonna start out with a few mechanics. Think about WoW. We'll go back to WoW here.
You get your basic attack and you get like one spell maybe.
1 or 2 spells. At level 1, that's all you get. And then as you level, it gives you more spells as your character grows. And then to learn those spells, you have to grow as a player as well. So a good progression system
has both.
is going to encourage both of these,
Yes.
right? So a pro of this, right, like as we already stated, a benefit of these skill progression systems is games with mechanics that are too complex for a player to fully understand at the start of the game.
Yeah.
They can just be given to them in pieces, right? Over time, by revealing these new mechanics. So like introducing new abilities, introducing new obstacles into the game, or deepening an existing mechanic.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? So that's a big pro of these, is like slowly allowing the player to improve with the character.
Yes. One thing that I like about Crash Bandicoot is that you progress as a player, because Crash, he doesn't really progress as the character. Throughout levels, beating levels, you'll get different like power-ups, but you still have to learn to use those power-ups effectively. So you get them gradually, which I really like that system. I love Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, but you have to learn how to use those effectively. Otherwise, if they gave them to you all at once, you would be overwhelmed and not know what to do.
And so the power-ups that you get in Crash Bandicoot, so when you get them, do you have them for the rest of the game, or are they temporary?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure you have them for the rest of the game.
Okay, so if you have them for the rest of the game, that means that on the character skill axis, from our definitions here, Crash has improved.
Yes.
He has progressed. But also the mechanics, the way that they're given to you, require you a lot of immense player skill to use properly.
Which is why I think it's such a great game, because it requires both.
Okay. I like that example a lot.
But I brought that up because of the con of this system is if it's done poorly, it can actively impair the player's enjoyment of the game. So like I was saying, like if they gave you all of these different skills all at once, you would get a little overwhelmed and you wouldn't know how to use them all effectively. So it being like, okay, you're Crash, you can jump and you can spin around, and then later you get the ground slam, and then later you get double jump, or stuff like that. Doing it throughout the game.
Can you imagine if Crash had all his abilities right at the start of a game?
It would feel overwhelming, and then I feel like you would forget a lot of them. You would forget what skills to use. You wouldn't know where to use them.
That's a good point.
Because usually when you get a new skill, the level you go to right after requires that skill.
And that's
so
just
you
good
use
level
it.
design.
Yes.
That's like building a tutorial into the game.
Exactly. Yeah, I
like
love
that.
when games do that.
I
It's
love
so good.
that. Yeah. And so you talked about that con of being overwhelmed. And what I think about immediately, we talked about, wow, the pro of them giving you a couple, like 2 or 3 right at the beginning. Basic attack, maybe a couple skills. But in the past, I've wanted to try a private server, right?
Okay.
And private servers range in can be anything from the same thing, but for free, or a server where you start at max level with all the skills. So I'm thinking about those servers where you start with everything, and I'm like, I don't know.
What skills do you choose? Where do you put them
I don't
on
know
your
how
bar?
to use them.
Yeah, you don't know how to use them.
I don't have the experience.
You haven't learned how to use them effectively and properly.
Exactly. So that requires so much of me, and I always quit them because I'm like, I can't, I don't know any of this. I want the tutorials to be given to me over time. I want there to be a tutorial after I get the skill.
It's really good because like in WoW, like when you level up, you get out of like the starting area, you get new skills, you want to use them immediately. And see what they do. And so that's like your little training arc.
Yep.
You see, how does this skill work? How do I use it effectively? And can it be combined with other skills that I'm using? And then that's more player progression.
Absolutely.
Figuring out how these different skills work together so you can make some cool, interesting combos.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about this con of overwhelming players. Another con here that I wanted to highlight is potential hand-holding. And we've heard this a lot in recent years with games, but essentially what this is any feature that puts a how-to-play type instructions during your face in gameplay.
Yeah.
Or it reminds you of a game's mechanic constantly throughout a game.
You don't need to. It doesn't need to.
Or it just solves the problem for you.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I've noticed you're having trouble with this. Here's the answer. And you're like, no, let me figure it out. This is the game.
Real egregious examples of this is like the game actually taking control of you.
Yeah,
and
being
moving
like,
you somewhere.
go here. Like Pokemon.
Don't take my autonomy away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pokemon is a real bad example of this.
These
in
past recent
generations.
generations.
I actually quit Sun and Moon 7th gen because of that.
It's funny. I got through it, and then in Gen 8, I was like, can't.
But I didn't even try Gen 8 because I was so frustrated with Gen 7's hand-holding. Because at the beginning of that game, they're like, hey, come here.
And it's like, now you're in this town, and you can wander around, and so you try to take 2 steps, and it's like, no, you're supposed to go over there. And I'm like, but what? Why do you even give me control then?
It takes you to a city, and you're like, finally, I get to go to the city. And you go in a certain direction, like, nope, come back here. And it forces you in that way.
And then,
that's frustrating.
Yes. So hand-holding like that, or like, I can't think of a perfect example, but say you're playing a game, you have these skills that you've had for a little bit, and you're in a fight, and it's kind of a hard fight, and then like a little tutorial thing just pops up, like, hey, maybe you should try using this, and it's like, shut up, go away, I've been playing this game for a while.
Big on your screen.
Yeah.
So the hand-holding can be really frustrating, right? And
I think there should be a tutorial, and then if you get a new skill, have a little mini tutorial on how to use it, either by practicing or by being like, here's how you use it.
Yeah,
like double jump by pressing this button, and then you're good.
And then immediately having a player use that in some way.
Exactly.
I think that's really good design there. Okay, so we have talked about player skill and character skill, but we're going to talk about what those mechanics actually look like.
Yes.
We gave some examples, but let's give some more here. So I'll let you take the player skill.
So player skill mechanics include combos, range management, aim, timing management, when to reload, your movement, just a lot of managing, basically. Managing your skills, managing your time, managing the distance, the range.
Memorization, just knowledge in general is really important here. But these are things that you can get better at in a game, right?
Like pattern recognition. If you're fighting a boss of whatever game over and over, you're gonna learn its movements. You're gonna learn how it works, and you'll get better. You'll know when to properly dodge. And all that.
Yeah,
where its hitboxes
shooters, right? Like,
oh gosh.
Oh man, when and where to aim on players? When do I
to
reload? Things like this. How do I make use of this new movement option they gave me? How do I make use of this double jump and air dash? Right? Things like these that it's like, okay, I can go this far with this air dash. Can I make that gap?
Yeah.
Can I make that gap fast? Can I make this jump? And you're going to keep having these improvements as a player. Okay, character skill mechanics. So these are things like ability scores, improving your damage on abilities and weapons, right? Getting new gear, getting more strength, getting more agility, faster reload time. So things like loadouts, right?
Things that are like passives. Yeah, loadouts. I like that.
And so... and that are like less recoil, like passives, loadouts, whatever you want to call them.
It's like I pick this thing and it's just going to happen all the time. I don't have to even worry about it.
I think so. Something that highlights both of these very well is Gears of War and their reload system.
Okay.
So Gears of War has a reload system where when you reload your gun, there is a small window that if you hit the reload button again, you instantly reload.
Oh, that's cool.
So that becomes a player skill mechanic of when do I reload and
can I time
this right? Time it properly in the heat of battle?
Timing it.
Exactly.
I've never played Gears of War.
It's a very cool franchise for sure. Oh wow, we finished a sheet.
Cool. I want to do this thing because y'all always throw it that way. I want to do that.
What? You threw it behind you?
Yeah, it's funny.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm gonna throw it in front.
I wanted to whip it around.
Okay. All right. So we defined our system.
Yes.
We designed some of the mechanics. But now we want to give some examples. And we've touched on some examples throughout. But what this part of the episode is going to look like. So we're going to talk about games that we like. And we're going to determine which form of to help you as the players determine which form of progression that you value the most. So this is going to look like how much we think each game emphasizes player and character skill by defining what the progression system looks like. Then we're going to give some pros and cons to that progression system. Okay, so it's behind you here on set. our World of Warcraft shrine. And so I think it's only fair. We've been talking about it quite a bit at this point because we're excited. We're really excited. We're going to talk about World of Warcraft. But caveat here. Our experience with World of Warcraft comes predominantly with the classic version and the classic vanilla version of the game and Burning Crusade.
Yes. We have not played retail. I have not played any expansion after Burning Crusade.
Yes, so this is where this deep dive's going to come from. So bear with us if you're like, I'm playing the newest version and that
it might have something different. We don't know about that.
You have no idea what you're talking about. Well, tell us in the comments. Yeah. Send us an email.
Get that content.
Content, baby. Okay, World of Warcraft vanilla, right? So 1 to 60, 1 to 70. And the way that this progression system works is just a brief overview. You make your character and you make from 8 to 10 races. You pick a race and then you pick one of 9 classes. The class that you pick and the race that you pick will determine your starting stats and your starting abilities. There's some overlapping abilities between all the classes, right? Like every single class has a basic attack.
Yeah.
Every single class can use professions, right? Every single class can use first aid.
Yes.
Right? But
it's necessary.
It's necessary. Use your first aid.
Use your bandages.
Use your bandages. They help a lot.
They save your life.
But you drop into the world, you start in yours. Each race has their own little starting zone. And you'll start at level 1, and you'll start with your basic attack, your race's passive ability.
And they usually give you a weapon.
They give you, you'll have your weapon.
You start with a weapon, so you're not just punching things, unless you want to.
You'll start with your weapon, and then an ability or two. So I'm thinking about the druid here. Okay, so a druid is a caster that gets its magic from nature.
Druid's my favorite.
So,
except I don't know much about the WoW druids.
So we're going to talk about how about the night elf druid, because she's behind you there. So a night elf druid will get basic attack from a staff or a dagger. Probably not a dagger because that's metal. From a staff. Maybe.
I think they can use like daggers. Bludgeoning weapons.
Yeah, they can use daggers.
Anyway, yeah.
Confusing myself here. But they'll get that, a passive ability, which the night elves can turn invisible if they don't move. It's called Shadow Mount. And then they get an ability called Wrath. It's just a 1.5 second magic energy.
It's like a beam.
That's it.
Yep. That's what you got to do.
That's what you get.
So if you want to go like the caster route, you're shooting beams of wrath over and over. If you want to do more melee, you're hitting stuff with a stick.
Yeah, that's it. It'll look different as you level, but that's all you got in the beginning.
That's all you got in the beginning.
So you do that. You kill the mobs, which the mobs are easier in the beginning.
Yes.
Again, scaling things down to help players learn. Every 2 levels in this game, you get either a new skill or a talent point. Right? So talent points come at level 10, and then every even level after, you'll get another. Well, no, that's wrong. You get a talent point every single level, and then you get a skill every even level.
Okay, yes.
And so you're always getting these new skills, these new mechanics, these new abilities.
And it gives it to you very gradually, so you have a couple levels or a level or so to get used to it before it gives you something completely new that'll change your build.
Absolutely. And the gear that you get early on, it's going to be a white gear, right?
Yeah,
so the common.
It's going to be generic.
It's going to be generic. It's not going to have any fancy ability scores or mechanics that you need to learn. So it slowly gives you these things. So which, from me, that tells me that it's very high on the character skill progression.
Yes.
Your character is getting new abilities. They're getting new armor all the time. They're getting new talents that give them new skills or give them new ability modifiers.
What you can do is based solely on what your character can do and what skills they have.
Absolutely. So it's like this
where you
so
take
high.
Control is just sequencing.
Absolutely. It's super high on the character skill. But I would say it's actually pretty medium to high on the player skill as well.
Because like if you have all of these skills that are really good and you don't know how to use them or use them like efficiently, you're gonna have a bad time.
You can get through the. We talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about this pre-show. You can get through the game. You can never use
totally do it.
keybinds. You can click all your skills. You can stand in one place. Fight one mob at a time. You will get through the game.
It'll just take a while.
It'll take a while. You might die more, but you get through the game. But if to maximize your fun with the game, as these skills get introduced to you, you're going to want to improve. You're going to want to move in combat, right? You're going to want to time when you use your spells. You're going to combine spells like we talked about. So let's talk about, we'll put some terms to these, right? So character skills, improved base stats every level, better weapons and ability damage, stronger gear, gems. What are some of the
Enchantments.
enchantments? Yeah, what are some of the player skills?
You know, the new abilities, like I was talking about, learning how to use them, positioning. So if you're like a rogue, you want to backstep, you want to be behind the target.
That's a very good example.
Cooldowns, you know, every skill, not every skill, but most skills could have a cooldown, so you have to time that. You have to pay attention to it to when you can use it again. Resource management. So like with
Money.
well, with casters, you know, you have your mana. Rogues and some other thing, they use stamina.
Energy. Yep.
Close enough.
Yep, rogues and the druid's cat form. So back to the druid, right? The druid has a mechanic that they get to shapeshift, which makes them so unique. They get to shapeshift into a bear, a cat, a what is that? Like a manatee, like a water form.
Yeah,
they're
it's like a
manatee.
seal.
Yep, they get to turn into a bird that lets them fly around. They get to turn into an owl.
It's more like a walrus or a seal.
Yeah,
It's not really a
something
manatee.
like-
But yeah.
Yeah,
And then
get
they
like
turn into a bird. I've never
bird.
gotten to the bird.
You can choose to get a tree form that improves your healing.
I love the druid because there's a play style
for everything.
for everything in this one class. You can go DPS, you can go tank, you can go healer, you can do all three if you feel like it.
You can. Absolutely. And so these shape-shifting abilities, the cat is really good at prowling, and it's like a little, like
Being
a lot like
stealthy.
the rogue
Yeah.
and stealthy. And then the bear's like a warrior in your face.
It uses rage,
Uses rage,
which is another
mechanic
resource that the warriors use.
that warriors generate by doing damage. So these shape-shifting, this is also very highly tied to player skill. Like a druid, it probably has one of the highest skill caps in the game because you need
Because
to
they
know
have so many things. Yeah, and the
how to
last
use your
point on
forms.
here is knowledge. So knowing what your skills are capable of,
Yep.
what your class is capable of, and then what you're capable of.
what
You need to know all of these things.
what other classes
Other
are
classes are capable
Yes.
of, and what the enemies can do to either hinder you or hurt you. You gotta know all of these things.
And what I will say too, so for our axes here, so high character skill, but I would say it's pretty medium on player skill. You can get through the game without being a great player, but PvP, player versus player, I would say is pretty
Very high
We're
player
very high
skill.
player skill. If everyone has the same like level of gear, right? The character skill is equalized. Oh,
There's still gonna be
that's-
people better than
that is such high player skill there. So, what are the pros
The pros
of this system?
of this system are enjoyment and easy access for players of various skill levels. A lot of room for player mastery, like we were just talking about with the PvP. And then, you know, if you don't want to do PvP, you can still enjoy the game while not progressing as a player. Like, doesn't mean you're a bad player, just means you're different.
You're just different. And that's what's so good. And I think that's a testament to the longevity of this game.
Yeah, that's why WoW is still around.
That's why it's still around.
It's so good.
And so good. Because there are players who want to be the best like no one ever was.
Yeah.
Right? That want to push themselves. That's my friend Vine. He loves that PvP aspect of the game. He loves his arenas and putting his skill as a player against others.
And then there are players that just want to do herbalism to level up
Yeah.
because
there are
they're
peop-
memes.
Who want to chill. Yeah.
Just want to chill and enjoy the world.
Some people like the role-playing aspect. Some people just want to see the environment and level at their own pace. And the game is very wide open for the various types of players.
So tell us about the cons of this system.
Okay, so the high emphasis on character skill can create these level walls that no amount of player skill can overcome.
Yeah.
So what this means is that if I'm a level 7 player and I try to fight something that's level 12. No matter how good of a player I am,
It's gonna be hard.
it's going to be hard.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard.
And
Like,
there
are these boss walls, there are these enemy walls in this zone that things are gonna kill you.
yes, absolutely. And so that can be frustrating for people that really high value skill. It's like, well, I can't, now I have to grind.
Yeah,
And grinding doesn't take skill.
yeah, it just takes time.
It just takes time. So that can be frustrating for players that really love player skill. Also, the character stats and gears can often overshadow player skill.
That's true.
So if you just have better items, better level, better gear, better whatever than someone else, no matter how good
You might
they
not
are,
even have to be good.
you might not even have to be good. You might just have to hit buttons.
Yeah, you'd just be a frost mage.
You brought up the most skill-intensive class in the game.
Oh.
Mages.
Yeah.
I'd say mages and druids are very high on the skill meter. But I'm saying, like, someone who's max level and who's been max level and grinding raids and getting gear
Yeah.
for months to someone who just got there. The player that just got there might be a better player, but they're not going to overcome that gear.
The geared out dude. Yeah.
So then PvP is more, at least for classic, PvP is more player skill focused, while PvE is just character skill focused. There are whole PvE dungeons where you just hit a button.
Yep.
You don't have to move. They've remedied that a lot in recent WoW, where they've added a lot more skill into the raids. How you move, how you use mechanics to stop certain bosses, but back then you could just button.
I'm just gonna
I'm gonna
auto-attack.
cast the same spell.
Wand.
So that's WoW.
That's
let's
WoW.
let's go on to
Wow.
the
Go to
next
Dark
one.
Souls.
Dark Souls. So
So I will preface
the-
this by saying
Yeah, perfect.
I've only played Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and now Elden Ring, so I'm not the most knowledgeable of the whole Dark Souls franchise.
Well, guess
but
what?
More than you.
Guess what? You're the expert here.
I'm the expert here. So, Dark Souls.
Okay, tell us about the progression system within Dark Souls.
So the progression system is you level up, but it is very high intense player skill progression. Because no amount of levels will mean you're good at the game. Like, you can grind for hours, you can grind forever and get to like the highest level you can think of or whatever, but if you're bad, you're still gonna die.
Yep.
Like, if you don't know how to dodge, if you can't time your potions correctly, you're still gonna have a bad time.
You can't memorize boss mechanics. Yeah.
Like,
Movements.
you have to learn their patterns. You have to learn when they
patterns.
turn phases, because there's always like at least 2 or 3 phases
Yep.
in these boss battles. And you need to learn even just the random enemies that are out in the world. You need to learn like their patterns, their walking cycles and stuff. Learn when they come out, what they're gonna do, and all of this stuff.
So
Very
compare
player
this
skill.
to WoW, right? So
Okay.
in Dark Souls, you're killing mobs, you're getting souls, you're leveling up, you're getting more health, you're getting more stamina. But if you're not good, you get hit. Like, no amount of health is gonna
Yeah.
keep you alive. But
Like,
think about WoW.
The more health you have, the longer you will survive, but you'll still probably die because the bosses always have more health
If
and do
you
more
still
damage.
don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
no amount of extra hits are going to help you. But in WoW, think about, like, there's this mob, back to our level 7 example, 7 and 11. I'm level 7, I get killed by level 12, I said, right? Well, I'm going to get to level 16, and I'm going to one-shot this thing.
Yep. You can't do that in Dark
You
Souls.
can't do that in Dark Souls.
Like, I have a character that's like level 230 something because me and my friends used to cheat.
What? Wait, didn't you listen
We did some cheats.
to our etiquette episode?
No,
No
I
cheating.
wasn't here.
That was board game etiquette. You're fine.
That's true. So I'm level like 230 something, and I still struggle with the bosses because like they're still hard. No amount of level, like I can have a health bar that's almost like a boss's, and they still hurt. They
Yeah.
still hit me a lot. I've played this game a lot,
So
but I'm still not very good.
Yeah. Okay, so where do you think on player skill and character skill these rank?
Player skill very high. Character
high.
skills like not at the bottom, but pretty low.
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low because like the skills that you get, the weapons that you get don't exactly matter to your level. The weapons that you can use matter to your ability scores. So like your strength, your dexterity. So that kind of matters, like levels.
Okay, so there's like requirements you
Yeah,
need
there
to-
are requirements.
Okay.
And then, if you want to do magic, you have to have a certain amount of like intelligence, which increases your mana bar and stuff.
Sure.
So that's resource management. Also, magic is the best to use in Dark Souls. It's OP.
They use it for speedrunning.
Yeah. What was I saying? But it's still, you still have to be good. You still have to know the sequencing, know the enemy that you're fighting,
Yeah.
do all of those resource
And
management.
what's crazy is some of the basic mobs. If you don't know what they do, they will still.
They could literally just, you could be doing fine and one could sneak up behind you and kill you
Yeah.
for no reason.
So
Like just out of nowhere.
back to
You could get hit by a crab.
player skill is high. It's what you're
Very
saying.
high. It's like the
And
highest
so
I think
like
it could be.
low to medium on the character skill, where your character is improving, but it's not enough to
Yeah.
overshadow or overcome your need for player skill.
Yes.
Okay. So let's see what some of those actual mechanics are.
So, the player skill, or no, character skills are more potions. The progressions, I mean,
Yeah.
is getting more potions, stat increases, and better gear, like I was talking about. So, you get more potions, you're able to heal better, you heal more. So your resources stay fuller. Your health and your magic are the resources that you can replenish. Your stamina replenishes over time. But there are things to increase it as well. I don't know what they're called.
Okay.
And then
What are some of the player skills? I know we talked about a lot of them. But what are these?
memorization,
Yes.
timing,
Oh,
and
man.
positioning. Dodge rolls.
Dodge rolls, dodge rolls.
Get good, don't get hit.
Yes. What about? Can you parry?
Yes, you can, and I'm bad at it.
Oh, okay,
You can
that's-
parry. You
that feels
parry
like-
with a shield.
High skill.
Yes, it's very high skill because you have to have such precise timing to parry attacks away. And I don't even know if you can parry bosses. You probably can. I don't know.
Yeah, that's.
I don't do it. I'm bad at it.
Yeah, it's
I roll
high.
around
You got to get that timing.
and hide.
Right, like that. This is literally as you a player. How much can you time your reaction time? That's what
Yes.
it is, right?
Yes. Because like a lot of your first fight with a new boss is just running away from it and seeing what the heck it's gonna do. At least that's for me.
Okay. All right. So, what are the pros of this system?
The soul system promotes the intended fear of the game. Wanting to improve your character's skills requires improving player skills. Very good for mastery-oriented players. So if they want to be the very best there ever was, you already did that joke, but I stole it.
Yes, yes.
So if you want to overcome all of these obstacles by just getting better at the game, this is the game for you. You're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of death.
Yes, you are, and if this is rewarding for you, this is where you want to be. If you're like,
Yeah.
I like that I have this precise timing. If I like to be the character on
You're
those,
very in control.
yes, high control. Like no one will ever say that the mechanics aren't pristine, precise in this game. You die, it's your fault.
Yep.
Right? That's what you're gonna. That's often what you will hear
Yeah.
a lot from high player skill games. It's your fault.
Yep.
And sometimes, I don't want to hear that.
That's why the death screen is so brutal. You died.
You died.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But this pro here is what I like is that since you want to improve your character, it's a progression system that requires you to get better to see
Yes.
more of the game.
Yeah.
Very well designed.
Yes.
In that aspect, they knew what they were going for and created a system to reward that.
Yeah, because if you want to explore the game, you have to get good. You have to beat these bosses to open up new areas, to see more of the game and to learn more of the lore that is confusing.
I guess I better do this. This is the cons.
Oh yeah, the cons.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So, if you're someone like me who likes your games to lean a little bit more into the character skill, you might be upset that you can't grind through your problems.
Yeah, I've tried. And it helps very little.
And this means that there's going to be a soft cap on the effectiveness of your character's progression, meaning player skill is mandatory.
Yep.
There's no way around it. You have to improve. We've been saying this, but you have to. And if you don't want that in your games, that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, and that's okay.
And like I said, I like games. As we're doing this episode, as we've gone through this, I think I like my player skill to be somewhere in the medium range.
Not the highest priority.
Yeah, because we'll get to some examples here at the bottom of the hour of some that I've actually just dropped because it was all player skill. I'm like, oh, no, thank you. But I actually, so I was doing some research for this, and Veridas, I think his name's on YouTube, their name, and I direct quote from them is the leveling system represents not only the character's confidence but the player's confidence too. The leveling system in Dark Souls particularly is an expression not of how strong your character is, well, it is, I suppose, but it's an expression of what your character has accomplished, which is so cool. So slay this enemy, fought through this area, took a shortcut, meant for much higher levels, whatever. Like, I really like that quote because...
I beat this boss and now I'm using its weapon. This is my trophy.
So if you're like me, who likes the character skill more, it's not as rewarding to say, oh, I got through this area. I want my character progression to mean that I'm becoming God mode.
Yes. That's not going to happen in Dark Souls.
In this game, but I really like the way that they said that.
I do
It's
too.
an expression of how strong, an expression of what your character has accomplished, not how strong they are.
Yep.
So,
I like that too. That's
like your
really cool.
character, you've accomplished a lot.
I've played through the game
200
6 times.
230 plus. You've
On one
accomplished
character.
a lot.
Yes.
But there are still players better than you.
Yep, absolutely. Like I tried PvP because they had that, and it was bad. I'm not. There are people way better than me.
Yes.
But I still love the game.
Okay.
Because I'm not there for PvP.
Yeah. Okay, so at the bottom of the hour, we're just going to run through some games. We won't go as in detail here, but we're going to rank some games on
where they
these
fall
axes.
on our spectrum.
Yeah, on this criteria here. So we can't do this without talking about Terraria.
Terraria.
One of our favorite games. So for those of you that don't know, Terraria is a 2.5D procedural adventure game, right? Side-scrolling where
up and down, actually.
you just play a no-name character and you adventure, build, get NPCs, defeat stronger and stronger
A lot
bosses.
of people compare it to like 2D Minecraft, but I personally feel it's much more than that. It's much more than Minecraft.
Yeah, I
it's
would
very
say
different.
It's a very simplified explanation, and that just comes from Minecraft being the most popular game ever.
Like the only comparables that they have
building.
Is building, yeah.
Building and it's spelunking, right? But they're very, very different in a lot of ways. And Terraria, its core gameplay loop is your character doesn't have any abilities. It just gets more damage and more armor and more health.
And magic.
Mana. Yeah. So your character is not like getting strength or intellect or stuff, but you go out and adventure. You can make mana crystals to get more health. You find hearts to get more health. You get, you find things to build stronger and stronger gear that will increase your damage. But there are bosses that are really hard.
That are still going to be a wall.
So I honestly...
where do you think this falls? I feel like they're both pretty in the middle.
I think this is very high on character progression.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very high.
Very high.
You don't get through the game.
But I still feel like the player skill is still high. It's medium to high.
I think player skill is
but the character is a little above it, if we're going like this.
I would say it's medium. For me, I think Terraria falls on the medium for player skill. And that's because there are bosses, maybe not the last few, but there are times where you can just get gear strong enough to brute force your way through certain bosses.
But it's like, how do you get that stuff? Is you grind and you use their skills. But that's true.
But I say it's medium, not low because of that, because at the end you can't do that with certain bosses.
Like Skeletron.
Skeletron's really hard. You got to be pretty good at the game for that. And then also there are players that just do challenges where they like no damage challenges.
Yeah.
I've seen one of those. Where like, holy cow, that can be done with minimum armor, right? So
I feel like
there's a lot of room to improve as a player in the game.
Yeah, it's very character skill progressive, high on that.
Yes.
And then if you want to not improve your character at all, the player skill can then not overshadow it, but overtake that. But that's just if you want the main game.
There are points. There will be walls. The reason why I think it's medium is there are walls that you have to are mandatory as a skill point to get through. But there are also many times where you can just go grind through your problem.
Like, I'm just gonna get this gun.
Or I
one
can
shot
figure
or
out this
something.
cheese.
Yeah.
Or I can make this train cart to get through this issue. So I would say high character skill, medium high, depending on your play style. Medium high
Yeah.
for player skill. Okay. I wanted an example here. I'm going to lump these two together.
Okay.
Super Mario World and Rocket League.
Okay. Rocket League.
Tell me where you think these fall.
Well, I know Rocket League is purely player skill because you're a little car, and you drive around hitting a ball. It's like car soccer,
Yeah.
and
It's just
you
player
just have
skill.
to be good at doing that.
It's such a hard game.
Your car doesn't get any upgrades, right?
So I
least I don't
actually
think
looked
so.
into this because I picked these two games. I wanted some games that were on the other side.
Yeah.
That were just purely player skill, no character progression.
Overwatch is one of those, but we'll talk
Oh
about
yeah,
that in a minute.
that's a really good example here too.
It's the opposite of League of
Yeah,
Legends.
absolutely. So it's Super Mario World back in 1985. Mario can jump. You have your speed, like in their power ups throughout, but the power ups are directly tied to player skill because
Yeah.
they change your movements and stuff. So it's so high on player
Is that
skill.
the one where the Tanuki suit was introduced?
That was Super Mario World 2 or 3, I believe.
I don't know
That was on the
Mario.
Super Nintendo. But anyway, Mario platforming games are so high on skill because you have to time so much. And then Rocket League's the same thing. There's a giant metal ball flying through the air, and your cars are literally rocket-powered cars.
Yep.
And you have to be able to in real time,
jump and
time your angles and
Yes.
get these into this small basket. So these are very high.
Rocket League is
Very,
wild.
very low to almost no character
Like
progression.
zero.
Almost zero. But Rocket League's
At least
actually
for
funny.
Rocket League.
I did the research on this. And Rocket League actually has a shred of characters because the bodies of the car have different hitboxes.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that. That makes sense.
That's it.
But that's it. I don't know if that's... that's not the character progressing. That's just you choosing a
Well,
different...
you're playing the character.
Yeah, that's
right. So that's a
also
different
funny.
that's a different stat that your character
That's
has
true.
in the game based on how we've defined it. But it's also to the point where most players choose the same one
Right?
because they're like,
Because,
this
like,
is the
okay,
best.
this has more hitboxes. I'm going to hit the car fast, like the ball.
These
better,
are the best
faster.
parameters for all.
Yeah. So then everybody
situations.
becomes that car.
And then Mario too. Mario I would say is a little higher because he does get power ups throughout the game. But what's really interesting and so well designed about that game is the power ups are completely linked to player skill. Right? You get bigger as Mario, you can jump higher. Right?
Yeah.
You can run faster, right? Or the Tanuki suit you said you can fly,
Yeah.
right? So I wanted to touch on a couple of examples there. And honestly, we can just talk about Overwatch right now too.
Overwatch is the same with kind of like Rocket League. It's player skill progression because you get this character, they have their set abilities, and it's up to you to know when to time them and when to sequence them. A lot of characters have reload times. So when you're reloading, you're pretty vulnerable, so you want to like get behind a wall, but that's like with most shooters. If you're a melee character, you have to be very careful of your health.
Oh yeah, your timing is crucial.
So it's
for melee
absolutely zero
I think
character
it's-
progression.
Yeah, there's zero. There's nothing you can do to improve. Once you go into a match, and even outside, there's no way to improve your
There's
abilities.
no way to improve the character
So that's
because they are set.
that is a perfect example of maximum.
And then you know about League of Legends because
Oh, I
know
do.
nothing.
Yeah. So League of Legends is actually
Is it like on the opposite end?
it's actually pretty high on both of these. I would say because unlike it's a MOBA, right? So a multiplayer online battle arena, 5v5, and you pick from this roster of characters.
Like Overwatch.
But the character progression is actually really high in this game because I haven't played in years, but you went from 1 to 18, and as you leveled, your character's health increased, their mana increased, they got to improve abilities, unlock abilities. Like you only have 4 abilities, 3 in an ultimate,
Okay.
passive, but the passive you don't use, right?
Yeah, it's just there. But do you unlock it? Do you unlock the passive, or is it just always there?
It's given to you from the beginning.
Okay.
You have the passive that's like you get bonus armor for this, right?
Yeah.
But it's just in effect. But there are usable abilities that you have 2 of But throughout the game, 1 through 18, you're unlocking your abilities on your team, on your action bar, and you're upgrading them as you go.
Yeah.
And with the money you get from defeating minions and other players, you actually can go to the shop and buy items.
Oh, that's cool. So, yeah, Overwatch doesn't have items.
Yeah, so League actually does it well where, and outside of the game now, they have it where your character can progress. You as the player progress. Like they have, so your account levels up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Like Overwatch has that too, where your account levels up based on like how long you've played or how much
Okay.
you've won. But that does not matter.
doesn't. Yeah, I guess I
does
don't
nothing.
remember if it matters. But
No, it doesn't
within
matter at
game,
all to the
your
character,
characters
the
are
player.
leveling up, but you have to have a
It's just for bragging
you have to
rights.
have pretty high skill in
Mm-hmm.
League to win the games. So I think for the player skill, you have to know what items. You have to have knowledge. You have to know what time things are spawning. You have to know how to last hit minions. You have to know a lot in this game. And there's a lot of precise timing and movement of how to use your abilities, how to aim.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this
When
is
the
a
enemy, you need to know. This is where Overwatch 2, not Overwatch the second one. Overwatch also.
as well.
Also, is knowing the enemy, knowing the enemy's character and what they can do. So practicing with a lot. Very high on player skill.
Yeah. And so if I had to talk about League, I think its player skill would probably, like WoW, go from medium to high.
Yeah.
Depending on how it can go as high as you want it, how much depth you want to get out of it, but you can still enjoy and have fun without like memorizing
Spending hours.
everything. You can still improve, but you got to have a basic competency or else you're going to be stuck fighting bots, which I guess that's
Which
a
I
way to
guess is
play.
fine.
That's
Yeah.
a way to play as well.
It is
But
an
it's
option.
also, I'd say medium, pretty higher than a lot of MOBAs on progression.
Yeah.
Because your character, each round, it resets each round, but 1 to 18 and 6 items. Very cool.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Another one.
We got time for another one here. What do you think?
I think about most fighting games
Yeah,
are
we
also
have to talk about fighting game.
like. So I'm going to talk about Soul Calibur 3 specifically. Because, it has your basic fighting thing where you can go, 1v1 or 2v2 matchups, whatever, versus. And that is pure player skill because the character you're playing doesn't improve throughout the fighting thing. But there is another, gameplay option called Chronicles where you make your own character and you choose its class. And as you go through these missions and fighting all these things, you actually level up. And the skills that level up, I think, are based on the weapon you're using.
Yeah.
And as you level up, you also get access to new weapons. You get more health. You get more combos to use with these weapons,
Yeah.
different combos and stuff. So that, I think, is still very high in the player skill progression. But it's a part of a fighting game that actually adds character progression,
Yeah, that's
which I think
really
is
cool.
super cool.
A lot of them don't do that.
Yeah.
Like think about Smash Bros. Melee that we talked about. That's all player. skill.
And you can actually, I think, also give them different kinds of armor that augment their abilities.
That's a very good example.
love
And
it.
we
It's
could
cool.
keep doing this.
We can keep
but
going
We're at the
forever.
bottom of the hour here.
Yeah.
So let me ask you real quick before we wrap up. Which progression do you value more highly? Player or character?
That's difficult because I think it changes a lot. I like both equally.
Okay. Cop out answer.
It's very cop-out
Tell us
answer.
in the tell us what you value.
Because
That was-
I think I like character progression more because I like new skills, new abilities,
Yeah.
different things to do.
that's where I am
Yeah.
as an explorer for a game.
Yes,
And
I'm very much an explorer.
And that's the point of this episode is to just think about when you play a game, where do you land? Which kind of progression do you value in a game? But that wraps it up. We'd love to hear about any examples of this axis for you, like why you like these games.
Yeah, we only
maybe
talked
you
about
think
a few.
maybe you think we're wrong about Terraria. Maybe you think well, modern WoW isn't like that. Let us know at shareddiscoveryshow@gmail.com. Thanks again for BCTV for letting us put on this production. Thanks for joining me.
You're
Savannah.
welcome. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I'm excited to do more episodes with you.
Okay.
Oh man, did you have a sign off?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I gotta do mine. You're new
Okay.
here. All right, ready?
Can I throw this?
Yeah, go on. Cool. Okay, so we're signing off. Thanks for joining us on episode 22 of Shared Discovery. Before we go, please make sure to have some fun, be kind to others, play some games, and sign us off, Savannah.
And as always, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hey, I like that. That was a good one. See you next time.